All right, so you're here with us because you're trying to make sense of all this talk about potential U.S. tariffs, and really, who wouldn't be? It's a lot to keep track of.
Oh, yeah, it really is.
We're going to take a deep dive today to try and cut through that fog. What we're looking at are some recent reports, we'll just call them pasted text
Hmm.
for now. We're going to try to use them to figure out just which countries might be targeted,
Yeah.
and what kind of impact this could have on everyone.
Yeah, because the thing is, there's a lot of uncertainty, even as we get closer to this Liberation Day on Wednesday, April 3rd.
Yeah, April 3rd, 2025, that is.
You're right, 2025.
Big day.
It's a big day, and we've got Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talking about a dirty 15. He's suggesting tariffs on 15% of countries that have their own trade barriers in place.
Like, what kinds of things are we talking about when we say trade barriers?
Basically anything another country might do to make it harder for our American-made goods to get into their markets.
Right. Okay. So, like, tariffs that other countries might already have in place.
Yeah, exactly. Tariffs, quotas, subsidies, all sorts of things.
Okay. Got it. And I think Bessent even hinted at maybe having different levels of tariffs, like some kind of tiered system.
Yeah, he did say something about that.
Okay. So then we've got National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett, and he says the whole U.S. trade deficit is really caused by 10 to 15 countries.
Right.
So now we have this shifting range, right? We've got 10 to 15 countries.
Right.
Then we've got this dirty 15 idea. And then on top of all that, there's this watch list of 21 countries. Like, it just seems like nobody really knows what's going on.
Well, it could be that there's some kind of internal debate going on, or, maybe it's a strategy to keep everyone guessing.
Yeah, make them sweat a little bit.
Exactly.
Oh.
That lack of clarity could be a powerful tool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so then to make things even more interesting, we have the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, and they're releasing this list of 21 economies that they say they're particularly interested in due to trade deficits.
Right.
And this list includes Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, the EU.
The whole EU.
The whole EU. India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia.
So basically everyone.
Yeah, pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
South Africa, Switzerland, Taiwan, Thailand, Turkey, the UK, and Vietnam.
Wow. That is a long list.
Yeah, and they say that these countries have the largest trade deficits in goods with the United States.
Right, in goods, yeah, because the thing is there's a difference between a deficit in goods and a deficit in services.
Right, and I think the report even says that this isn't necessarily a definitive list of who's getting tariffs.
Yeah, it's not set in stone.
It feels more like they're just kind of pointing out where the problems are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I see what you mean, like highlighting potential pressure points.
Exactly.
But, isn't it interesting that a trade deficit doesn't automatically mean tariffs? It just means we're buying more from those countries and they're buying from us.
Right.
But then if you think about it, the president is talking about putting tariffs on all countries, so...
That kind of throws a wrench in things, doesn't it?
It really does.
So the president says he wants to start with all countries because he thinks that most countries are taking advantage of the U.S.
Yeah, he said that.
And that really goes against this idea of having a small group of countries that are really causing the problems.
Yeah, are Bessent and Hassett talking about different types of tariffs? Or maybe different time frames? It's not really clear from pasted text.
Yeah, it's not. And that's why we're here, right?
Yep.
To try to figure all this out.
Exactly. Because, think about it from our listeners' perspective.
They're trying to figure out who's going to get hit with these tariffs and what it's going to mean for them.
Exactly. And the president's statement just throws another wrench into things.
Another wrench. Absolutely.
So, like we've been saying, there's a lot of uncertainty.
A lot.
But even though we don't know exactly who's going to get hit with these tariffs or even what they're going to look like, we do know one thing.
What's that?
Having a trade deficit isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right. It's not always a bad thing.
Sometimes it just means we're getting access to cheaper goods, things that we want and need.
Absolutely. And when we start messing with these trade relationships by adding tariffs, it's really going to disrupt things.
And it's going to drive up costs for everyone.
For consumers and businesses.
Exactly.
And this isn't the first time this administration has used tariffs.
Right. They've done this before.
Yeah, there are already tariffs on things coming in from Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, although those have been paused a couple of times.
Right, paused a couple of times. And then there's that 10% tariff on stuff from China.
Mm-hmm.
25% on foreign-made cars,
Right.
25% on aluminum and steel.
Yeah, so this isn't exactly new territory.
Right, not new territory, but it sounds like it could be a lot bigger this time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh.
Aston Business School estimated that all these tariffs could end up costing the global economy something like $1.4 trillion.
Wow. $1.4 trillion.
Yeah, so we're talking about potentially huge disruptions to the global economy.
So let's recap here. We've got Liberation Day coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and still so much is up in the air.
Yeah.
There's this watch list of 21 countries. Then there's the talk of a dirty 15. And then we've got this idea of 10 to 15 countries driving the deficit. And then you've got the president saying he wants to put tariffs on all countries.
It's a lot to process.
It is a lot to process. And we don't even know what form these tariffs are going to take or, any of the specifics, really.
It's kind of wild, right? Like, we have all these possibilities, each with its own set of potential consequences for global trade.
Yeah.
And, the tariffs that are already in place give us some idea of what could happen, but this potential expansion is a total wild card.
Yeah, it really is. And it just shows how unpredictable this whole situation is. And, even with the deadline coming up, it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it makes it tough to plan and to really figure out what the impact is going to be.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, it means that you need to be paying attention to what's going on because things are changing fast and there are a lot of different ways this could play out.
Yeah, and think about this. With all these conflicting statements and this huge list of countries that could be affected, what are other countries doing right now to prepare? What kind of strategies are they coming up with? Because let's be real, there are a lot of potential solutions to this puzzle, and we don't know which one is going to win out.
That's something to think about.
It really is.
All right, well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check back in for more updates as this whole tariff situation unfolds.
Yeah, we'll be keeping a close eye on things.
We will for sure.
All right, everyone, take care.
Bye.